Hello, welcome back to another stream. Let me just adjust this real quick. Uh, so today we are building the entry grade Nu Gundam, as you can tell from the title. So this is a unique-ish build compared to the other builds that we've done on this channel so far. Specifically in that this build does not require any polycaps or tools to assemble whatsoever. So this should theoretically be a quick stream, since this is also an entry grade. But without further ado, let's begin. So despite being great and otherwise, I feel like the entry grade line is incredibly good for what it is. And also while also being relatively cheap as well. I mean, you are going to be, specifically for this kit, you are going to be missing the fin funnels on the back, but there's also an expansion set that you can get for those if you want. Because this should be compatible with just about every high grade expansion set. So looking inside the booklet, each part is relatively simple. We don't have too many instructions, even for the limbs. They seem to be all just grouped up together. And the actual quality of the model kit seems pretty good. There's barely any stickers at all, but despite that, it still is able to maintain really good color separation. Like, I'd honestly rate it above the high grade if you're just in it for the new Gundam and don't care about the fin funnels. And I do also prefer the different shade that they use for the entry grade compared to the high grade. It much more closely matches the navy blue shade of the new Gundam over the black coloration that they decided to go with for the high grade. So yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna be breaking down each of these parts as well, and of course, going to be building feet up, as we usually do on this channel. So, we have about 4 runners total, 5 if you include that singular extra piece for the eyes. We got a part mainly for the internal frames, a bit of the shield I see right there, perhaps some of the thrusters, and the legs potentially. A ton of exterior armor here, with a fair amount of detail molded in as well. That's really nice. Like, this looked great if you decided to panel line or paint this. Like, I would also recommend that. Like, if you're just looking for a cheap kit to paint, the entry grade line is really good. And there's still so much subtle detail on these parts, despite being an entry grade. Like, of course, it isn't going to hold a candle to the real grade, but even then, there's so much there is just so much small details on this thing. You're still gonna be having a ton of fun if you ever decide to panel line this. But anyways, back to actually building the kit. As I said before, we're building feet up. So let me just actually sort these. Like so. Okay, on the side I have them sorted for runners and the eyes. We do also have some sticker decals. These are very similar. This isn't like your usual foil sticker decal or like your usual plasticky decal. This one is very similar to real grade decals. So that's pretty nice. The eyes are individually molded as well. There's some depth and shadowing there. That is so nice. Okay. Anyways, I should probably stop gawking on about it and actually get to building it. So, let us begin. So the parts themselves are pretty easy. Well, should be pretty easy too. Yeah, just pop off the runner. You don't need tools for this. You just kind of twist and pop them off. the cuts may or may not be cleaner if you use a pair of nippers, but it is pretty satisfying to just be able to well, pop everything off without no need of tools. There's like a really satisfying click to it. And because the gates are so close to the parts, it's really hard. I mean, it does still leave some markings. Actually, but honestly, I feel like the kit should be able to hide them with the way that these parts come together. Like occasionally you're gonna see some sprues from the gates, but theoretically, the kit should be able to hide them, as I said. So let's see here. Starting off with this. This immediately already hides a ton of the sprues by sticking them into another piece right there. We do have some really nice color separation here as well, specifically for that toe. Oh boy, not even the high grade has this. I think the high grade only has stickers for all these color separations, which just blows me away even further with this entry grade. Like the quality is great. Of course, there is a sort of trick to snapping everything off, because it's not to say like snapping it off is easy, but once you've managed to snap it off, it is pretty satisfying. Oh, this one's really stuck. There we go. You just gotta apply pressure to the right areas. Just kind of feel around there. Again, I'm loving this color separation and the speed at which I'm able to work in order to get things off the runner. Like, even if I were to use nippers, it would take longer than, of course, just snapping everything off. And I can always clean up with nippers later if I need to. Also, I definitely plan on panel lining this. This is all these textures are just molded in so well into the entry grade. Like, I've heard good things about it. This is my first time actually getting my hands on it. So that is pretty nice. The foot is also more complex than I initially thought. Like, this is 4 parts to make a foot, which usually you only see like, oh, probably around the same, but usually just less parts and more polycaps. But here, there are no polycaps at all. Everything just snaps together really cleanly. That is nice. I mean, it does use C-clips. Uh, well, because of course, there's no polycaps. But even then, the C-clips still work really well for where they're implemented. So for example, here's the ankle, right? This part right here, the singular piece that we just fitted in, that's the ankle. It is connected to the rest of the leg via C-clip, so it's able to swing back and forth, but there is a ball joint in here, allowing for a slightly more articulation in the toe, and a bit of rotation there for angled poses. So that is still really nice. This is also technically the precursor to all the witch kits as well, so this is probably where all that technology was prototyped. Still, I am blown away every time I see these entry grades. Like, I'm tempted to get the RX-72 entry grade with all its weapons as well, since, well, as the name implies, it comes with all the weapons for the RX-78 too, all the ones I'd used, including Hyper Hammer. Okay, so these parts are identical. These are the C-clip joints, snapped together really satisfyingly. Here. You just click on. And yeah, that's the ankle. Allows the foot to move back and forth. As I said before, a bit of movement up here. And rotation side to side. Oh, that is so nice. Oh, I should probably turn on BGM. I had some prepared, but I never turned it on. Okay, next up, we actually have armor. Some more armor, I should say. Okay. Got that. One thing to note about the connections from the legs to the hips is that is a ball joint, so you cannot get a full splits off, but you can still get very close to a full splits if you decide to try and do a pose similar to that. So while it is lacking a bit in articulation there, I gladly appreciate that they don't use polycaps, honestly. Because I've still had some very bad experiences with polycaps. Mainly with the turn A. Like, pretty much all the joints on the turn A was polycaps. And because of that, well, nothing really held on. At least with my kit of the turn A. I mean, it's a beautiful kit nonetheless, but it's really annoying when I had to pose that thing and all the parts just kept on falling off of it due to the polycaps. But that's probably just my bad luck with my specific turn A. But here, I do not need to worry about that issue. Everything is molded really well. Instructions themselves, while being relatively brief, are pretty easy to follow as well. Everything snaps together cleanly. It still holds up. I hope I didn't put that part in backwards. Even if I did, I could probably take it apart pretty easily as well, which I do appreciate. Yeah, the plastic on plastic folds are really nice. I mean, I'm not gonna say like polycaps are always bad, but I much prefer the plastic on plastic joints rather than the polycaps because they do weaken a lot over time, especially if you have them hold something heavy. Like, if I remember correctly, last week I built the what was it? Gundam Astaroth Rinascimento. I did have it posed up. However, I could already see the polycap joints of it failing to hold up certain parts. I have had to repose it multiple times in certain poses just to attempt to support certain limbs due to how heavy the equipment it had was. So, back to this kit. This should be the knee joint. I think we do have a 2-point bend. Knee and thighs. We have the feet down here, which still have a fair amount of articulation. Now we are working on the legs. Sadly for the legs, I think they did split it up between right and left. Which, personally, I feel like they could have just combined into one step. Oh, how many do I own? That is a very good question. I've kind of lost count. I mean, I wouldn't say I own like the largest collection, but I have gotten very addicted to this hobby over time. Let's see. On my wall currently, I have 9. I have another one hanging on my ceiling. I got 2 of them on a different shelf. Then I got 2 other ones on a separate shelf. I got 4 on a different layer of a shelf. I do have 1 master grade and a high grade from the same line, I believe. These kits are relatively cheap, depending on which ones you get. Like, I'd say for a high grade, you're estimating a price of around 20, 23 USD. But they're, depending on the shop that you go to, like, the shop really matters, mainly because, well, some hobby shops sell it for way cheaper than others. But if you're lucky, you can sometimes find kits for around 10, 20 USD. Yeah, it's safe to say that for a high grade. For master grades, of course, they're gonna be much more expensive. Same with real grades. But usually the price also varies based on their size, age, and complexity. So generally, sometimes older kits might be cheaper because some stores might have a ton of them. However, they could also be more expensive since they're not really in print anymore. But older kits do also come with a couple flaws sometimes. Mainly, what was it? Mainly some of them just not being, well, very fun to build. Specifically the ones, I want to say around early 2000s and before then. Entry grade kits, if you can find them, are a really nice place to start. Specifically, if you can find them at a dedicated hobby shop, because then they are really cheap. Like this alone, its high grade, I want to say would cost around 25 to 27 USD at a cheap hobby shop. The entry grade is around 10 to 15 USD cheaper. Of course, it does lack a couple of extra parts and gimmicks, such as, for example, the new Gundam lacking the fin funnels. However, I feel like it more than makes up for it with the quality alone and build process. Because honestly, just having a kit like this to snap together from time to time is pretty fun. Of course, the more that you build them, the more like some kits, like some processes of building will be streamlined. For example, just building the legs. Like sometimes they'll have you build one leg at a time, but then many times you can just get away with building both at the same time, since most of the time they are mirrored, unless they aren't. Also, I have heard really good things about Armored Core model kits if Kotobukiya decide to actually make them. I have heard that they do plan on making a couple of them, and I kind of want to get my hands on one of them. Though I don't know how fun they would be to build. I haven't heard too many good things about their white glint when they did make that, but I did have a fair amount of fun building a Metal Gear Rex when I got that kit from them. Though their kits tend to be a lot more expensive, so I'll keep that in mind. Like, I want to say the Rex costed me around 100 USD to get. Yeah, some of them are 1/100th, some of them are 1/72 scale, mainly because, well, their in-universe scale differs. However, at the end of the day, some of them are just the exact same size as others. One thing I really do like about this kit is that you can just kind of figure out what parts go where just by glancing at it, as long as you are familiar enough with the suit itself. Like, we already have most of the leg done, and I want to say, like, what? Maybe, yeah, like 20 minutes has passed since we started? Usually I'd have the leg done way later. Honestly, part of the reason why I'm able to work so fast with these kits right now, well, this kit in particular right now, is just due to the speed at which you can snap out parts, which I do really like. Of course, you could also build some 30-minute mission kits, which I also am a huge fan of. Okay, one thing I have noticed so far with this C-clip, they might need to improve the joint right here between the thigh and the knee. Oh, yeah, good night. I hope that you have a nice rest. Let's see here. Oh wait, no. Okay, no, they have thought of a way to alleviate that issue. So as I was saying, I thought that they would need to reinforce this C-clip joint right here, but perhaps... Actually, no, I think they still do need to reinforce the C-clip joint connecting the knee and the thigh, but I don't think they need much else to reinforce the joint between the knee and the calf. I feel like that joint is fine on its own, whereas perhaps the upper one isn't. But I think this right here does keep it in for the most part, so it should be fine. Okay, now for the back of the legs, then we can start working on the hips. Yeah, the P-Bandai 30-minute missions are they look really nice, and I kind of want to get my hands on one just to see what they're like, because they tend to come with a ton of other option parts due to being P-Bandai. Well, some of them at least. Others are questionable if they should be P-Bandai in the first place. Either way, they should still be fun. I do really like the assembly on the leg thruster here. That's nice. Anyways, legs are done. Nu Gundam legs are done. There's not much articulation in the thruster that you can do here. I think the real grade one, if you can confirm, the thruster back here should be able to move separately from the leg. But, in this case, it does not. Okay, onto the hip. This should also be pretty easy to throw together. If I can find the runner. There it is. Yeah, as I suspected, the real grade does have a ton of optional gimmicks, which is why I'm very tempted to get one, but I still need to get myself a real grade Sazabi first, and still need to build the real grade High Nu. because I really want to build those ones. But I'm still blown away by this, just the sheer amount of color separation from this kit. Like, if you just want a cheap anime accurate kit, like this is already blowing everything else out of the water. Just based on those two criterias. Cheap and anime accurate. Let's see here. Just twist this a bit and that should easily pop off. Yeah, here it is. The color separated little crotch section right there. The yellow shining through the red. Yeah, I need that RU100 for proper scale. That thing is huge! I mean, technically, if you wanted a proper scale 1/144th high nu, then you'd have to go for the high grade, because the high nu, the real grade high nu is made to be larger than 1/144th, mainly just due to aesthetics choices. Because otherwise, that thing would be shorter than the Nu Gundam and shorter than a Jagan, which I don't think is right. I don't feel like that's right. But canonically, apparently that is, with the high nu. Got here a nice little butt flap. Nice color separation on this butt flap as well, even if it is stiff as a board. So not much rearwards articulation from the legs. Theoretically, I could also get a pair of nippers in order to attempt to cut these front skirts apart, but I don't think that's a good idea for now, mainly because of how they are held on. Like, I could just throw on a couple more parts, but I don't think that's a good idea. Actually, no, I don't think these things can be cut apart without very easily falling off. Unlike the high grade, which uses your standard 2-ball front skirts. Unless... Actually, no, I'm wrong. These can be held together. Oh, shit. That slipped out of my hand while I was pressing it together. Because this piece right here, the white piece, does create a seal. And just clamps these two in place. So if you were to cut them apart, they could theoretically hold up. Though there's no side-to-side swinging, you only get back and forth swinging due to them not being ball joints and more like C-clips. Anyways, let's see, we're gonna throw on the legs. As I said before, these hips are ball joints, so you're not getting a full split, though you are getting a pretty good bend there. Like a pretty wide bend for the legs. I feel like splits are very situational in what poses that you can do. And for me at least, their poses don't come up too often. So I don't really worry about splits too much. Okay, side skirts. These are connected by ball joints, similar to actually a master grade side skirt. At least some of the older, not like old master grade side skirts, but I want to say like decade-old master grade side skirts. Something from like early 2010s, like the wing kits. So if you've never built one of those, they had a similar hip connection to this, except instead of like just two ball joints out here, they had, I want to say, 6 in total. Yeah, 2 ball joints facing the rear for the back skirts, 2 on the sides for the side skirts, 2 at the front for the front skirts, and along with that, they can also move up and down. However, that made posing them really annoying. Like, posing them was, they just constantly fell apart. That was my experience with posing them. It's really easy for the skirts to pop off, and sometimes they just don't hold their position. Like, I do love some of the wingsuits, but their kits need a bit more work, in my opinion. Which is why I'm very excited for the real grade Epion. I am hoping that thing greatly outshines the Master Grade. The Master Grade wasn't bad, but it certainly had many flaws that got in the way of it, well, just articulating it. And that thing is pretty fragile. I wouldn't say it's like a Zeta hand grenade, but, well, it's still... It wasn't fun to pose it too often. Okay, so we are onto the torso next. This should be a relatively quick build as well. See, so here's the neck joint. I believe this is also another ball joint. Setting this aside, we have this. Am I holding this upside down? Yes, I was. Come on. Come on, please go in. There we go. Boy, that is going to be a... Okay, no, that's not the neck joint now I'm looking at it. This is the hip joint. So we got this ball here to connect directly here. And we have this one for some articulation in the upper torso, allowing it to move back and forward and back. Let's see here. This right here should be the rest of the torso, like lower torso. If we can snap this on. There we go. Now we do have the front and back. There's not really much of an internal structure to this. Oh, the shield is already wanting to fall off. I'm just gonna pop parts of it off now. Okay. There we go, we got the front. And here is the back, if it wants to come off. Just gotta really wiggle some of these parts. There we go. Let's see, so right off the bat, they're immediately gonna be sandwiched together. As you can see, inside, again, it's completely hollow. It does have divots in here for the shoulder joints that are going to be attached. Now we have the actual neck joint. If I can find it. There it is. This one is much smaller. Like, this ball joint is a lot smaller than this one over here. And this is what is going to be, well, holding up the head. Alright, let's see here. Again, all these nubs I do find their placement great because they're all hidden due to being in, like, the nubs being in parts that are being recessed. And despite not having any interior whatsoever, again, the color separation is very good on this kit. I'm gonna see if I can scrape this little extra bit of plastic off with my thumb. Alright. Like, I'm mainly just working with my hands right now just to show that it can be assembled in a pretty good condition as well, without any tools whatsoever. It does, again, have your standard 2-pin backpack adapter. So that's 2 3mm pegs, I believe. So you can fit any standard backpack on there. Okay. Let's see. Do need to scrape off some extra plastic here because there's a chance it does show. Aside from that, there we go. Chest vents are in. Alrighty, next up, we do actually have to assemble the backpack, which is a pretty simple assembly, I believe. Like, usually for the backpacks, they usually save them till the very end. But here, I think they do have you build it with the chest piece. We already got the vernier thrusters already pre-molded in there, so we don't need to attach any separate parts. And these parts should just sandwich directly on. As long as I get their orientation right. Just gotta line up the pegs better. There we go. Don't try to force anything with this. Otherwise, you may or may not accidentally break something that you really shouldn't have broken. I have had that happen to me, I want to say a couple times. Backpack is pretty simple to build, though. All things considered. I don't think this thing comes with a beam saber. Or at least a beam saber blade. The handle might be able to be equipped with the blade, though. So if you have any spare beam saber parts lying around, I'm pretty sure you can use it here. In my case, I have an entire box full of them, so I don't need to worry about having to search for a beam saber. We do have this little notch where the fin funnel should have been able to reside. If this thing came with any in the first place. I was also very tempted to get myself an EG Nu Gundam. From Anime Expo. Now that I think about it, I really maybe should have. Because that thing would have paired really well with the regular entry grade Nu. I could have given it the fin funnel it always wanted, but never had. I do kind of like the asymmetry in the backpack of the Nu, though. I really haven't seen well, this sort of asymmetric backpack in many other kits. Oh, beam saber fell out. For now, this is just a decorative beam saber. Let's see, how do these parts connect? Wait, is it possible for these to be connected wrong? Probably. I need to really follow the instructions here, so I'm going to apologize in advance if you cannot see me assemble the parts of this. Hold up like this, or like this. Okay, there we go. That is the beam saber. The handguard just kind of flips up and rests over the hand. Curious if the hands can even hold this. But firstly, I do also want to test out something else. Hold up while I grab a couple extra parts. So this here is all the spare parts I've collected over the years. So, in here, as you can see, I have a ton of weapons if I ever want to hit any of my high grades out. But also, a ton of beam saber effect parts. Sadly, I don't think I have one short enough to act as the bottom of the, like, the secondary beam saber of the Nu Gundam. But these ones should work well enough for its primary sabers. Either one of these. Depends on how vigorous of a pink I want it. Let's see, this one, I've already popped out one of them, and probably using it. I think this I used on... No. This lighter one, I think I used a variant of that one for the unicorns. I wish this was compatible, because I feel like this would be short enough. If not, I needed something a bit shorter. Theoretically, I could also cut apart a couple of spare beams in order to make that. But for now, let's see, this should... no, it doesn't fully fit. Does it fit at the bottom? Okay, no, the bottom is a slightly differently shaped beam. Yeah, same with the top. Wait a second, I do think I have some beams in that shape as well. So these are not the usual, I think, 1.5 mil pegs. Of course, I could also have it wield separate beam sabers, but... Oh, wait, no, this might be short enough, but it's also the wrong color. Yeah, And that could theoretically work as a sub-beam. No, this is too thick. Yeah, okay. So, I don't think, looking at it now, there are not really many beam sabers that work with it. Sadly. You are going to have to get yourself a high-grade Nu Gundam or the Nu Gundam Weapons Expansions Kit. Because that does exist out there, and that does, I believe, work with this. I mean, you're going to get duplicates of the shield and the rifle, along with parts of the backpack, but, nonetheless, it should be, it should allow you to get access to the beam sabers if you're really into that. Did I miss a part? Yes, I did miss some parts on the backpack. I kind of got ahead of myself here. Whoops. Okay. Well, back to building. I think I've kind of stalled for long enough. So sadly, this beam saber can only be used, well, in its holster form. But if I can find the Nu Gundam expansion parts, then I am going to buy those and equip this Nu Gundam with a lot of new bits. A lot of fun parts, you know? Let's see, so 12 and 13 need to be lined up properly here. I think these parts are mirrored. They're not necessarily identical, but they are mirrored. So we'll have to be careful there, not to get these mixed up. Okay, nice. They fit in really well. Breaks up the very, very dark navy blue with some white. How do you attach? You like this? I think you're like this. Unless I have you upside down. Yeah, you are like this. Okay, that just breaks up the silhouette of the yellow a lot more. Sadly, all we can do with this beam saber is sheath it. Like so. I mean, I do really appreciate this moving part right here. Like the guard. I do like how that is separated. Even if it is, even if it doesn't come with proper beams. That little attention to detail I really appreciate. Anyways, this goes on the back like so. Adds a fair amount of bulk to it, like doubles the width of this thing, pretty much. Oh. Also, for an entry grade, this thing, I feel like plastics-wise, this is probably your best bang for your buck. If a shop is selling the entry grades. Because this thing is a pretty large kit overall. Like the Nu Gundam is, out of all the entry grades, I want to say the largest one. Perhaps if you just really want accessories, you want to get yourself the specific variant of the RX-782. The one that comes with the full weapons. But if you only have access to the base entry grades, I highly recommend the Nu Gundam. This thing is really nice. I think this is, out of the ones I've seen and built, like this is one of my favorite ones. Okay, now we are building the arms. So for this kit, they do streamline the arms a bit. Okay, let me just quickly throw these two together so I don't lose them. Oh, that is a satisfying snap. It feels pretty sturdy, all things considered. Like, got a bit of an ab crunch here, some side-to-side movement, and some rotation at the hip. Of course, if you pull it up a bit, you can do full 360 rotation. If you press it down, there is a bit, there is some parts clashing to prevent that. Mainly, this white piece in the hip clashes with a bit of this divot in the torso right here. But aside from that, I feel like this kit could hold up pretty well to a bit of play as well. So I guess if you saw this kit as like a toy, I feel like it would work pretty well. I mean, you'd probably have to play with it gently, but as long as you keep that in mind, yeah, I'd say it works pretty well as a toy. Yeah, we got a couple of shoulder thrusters for, well, stability in space. Shoulders might actually also be separated from the arms. That's pretty nice. Of course, front to back, the shoulders are identical to one another. They are just mirrored on the suit. So we got two shoulders there. Except we might apply decal to one of them. Yeah, we're applying the decal to the left shoulder, if I remember. So now, we do actually get some asymmetry in the arms here. Like, for the most part, they do have you build both arms at the same time. But there is some asymmetry you have to keep in mind. Mainly with the lower arms. Currently, I'm just laying out parts right now for quick assembly. Alrighty. Yeah, for the most part, the upper arms are identical. However, the lower arms are different, and you have to keep that in mind. Alright, let's throw these together. So this is a really, really simple assembly. You only get one joint for the elbow, and you usually see a two-point bend. However, I do feel like you get a ton of articulation out of this. Okay, that's seated really nicely. Alright, now we just need to, well, assemble the rest of the arm. Okay, so I feel like they could have kind of grouped these up as well. Like this next set of instructions. Specifically attaching the shoulders to the arms. So again, the shoulders are on a separate joint. They are able to move up and down separately from the arm. At least your shoulder armor is. So you get a fair amount of freedom there. You do have rotation right here. Sadly, there is no rotation at the lower forearm. That would have been really nice. Mainly for posing up with the shield, because I can only see one point that the shield can attach to. Let's see. Here, I think this one's a bit stiffer. I don't know why it doesn't want to go in. Okay, I think it doesn't click in, but it does stay in. Let's see, I'm going to apply the decal first. So the decal should be pretty easy to apply. Though it is a very thin decal, so be careful when applying it. Because you can rip this thing pretty easily. I have accidentally ripped decals like this in the past before. Also, one downside of this sticker decal is once it's on, it's really hard to peel off. So make sure that once it's on, it is in the place that you really want it to be. I have heard that if you do want to like move this around, you could apply some soapy water, but that could also only apply to water slide decals. I've had some luck in the past. If you just like press down really hard and just try to move, the decal does occasionally shift its position. That is the two shoulders. Now we go into the interesting part, the way that the arms differentiate each other. So let's see, right here we do have the right arm. Now, the right arm is pretty simple, right? Just got two parts, sandwich them together. You slide this over. There you go, you got your right arm. Really simple to build. It does also have some thrusters molded into there as well. And I think you do also need to throw on some wrists to keep those parts in. Left arm should be just the same, except we got some other parts to throw in that make it look slightly different. As you can see, the right arm is mostly white, whereas the part that I just threw onto the work surface, that is a part of the left arm. Why are you not going in? Did I do something wrong here? Probably. I'm going to apply some more pressure here. A bit more pressure. Then I will try to slip this on. I don't think this is fully in. Unless I have it backwards. Which yeah, I did have it backwards. Whoops. I put in a part wrong, so yeah, be careful of that. That happens to me quite often, even after all these kits I've built. Okay, As for hands, the hands are pretty simple to build as well. Like, you only get 2 sets of hands for this kit. Not 2 sets, 1 set of hands, technically. You get 2 hands. And they are both identical. Just holding slash fist hands for left and right. And 2 backs for them. Well, 1 set of backs for them, I should say. We're almost done with the build. This is a pretty quick one overall. It just clicks in, and there you go. You have an arm. Your right arm. Nothing too special about it, you know? You can rotate it. As such, I wish there was rotation at the lower arm in order to position shields better. But for now, that's good enough. Now for the left arm. Very similar ordeal. Except as you can see here, we have a spare beam saber molded into the left arm. That is something that the new Gundam does have. It's something that we have to take into consideration when building. A bit of yellow as well, I believe. A bit more color separation here. There we go. Sadly, that is not removable. I know in the real grade, I think you can just like pop it out. Like this part just kind of pops forward, or this slides back a bit in order to pull out a beam saber there. But, you know, this is the entry grade. This is the cheap one. But that doesn't mean that this is a bad kit, you know? It just doesn't come with all the gimmicks. At the price of being, well, very low. It is very cheap. But it does look really nice at the end of the day. And it's pretty easy to build. Those are the 2 arms. It does also come with, well, a rifle and a shield for your accessories, which is pretty nice. There's no, like, popping out gimmick for the shoulders to move the arms forward a bit more, as some high grades would have. But nonetheless, I still feel like you can get a fair amount of articulation out of this thing. Along with it being a pretty decently sized kit. Like, if I were to grab my F91 or Victory 2 to compare it, which I cannot right now since they are currently kind of on my wall, they'd only be around like this large in comparison. The new, it would stand up good in like head and parts of its shoulders above it. Alright, speaking of head, we are now onto the head, which is a very unique build. Mainly due to its partially pre-molded parts. So this right here allows the new to not have any eye stickers, just due to how these eyes are made. Because somehow they've also managed to get the parts of that part of the head to actually cast a shadow in order to, well, create this sort of darkish effect to cause the eyes to sort of glow in a way. It's very hard to describe, but it is very cool. Let's see, so, oops, drop that for a second. We got the eyes here, along with, I think, part of the head camera. We got the helmet, which should just slide right on top. And because of its single piece molding, there is no seam line. Actually, no, I lied. There is a seam line. But it's not too noticeable. Still a very good head. Let's see, we got the red chin right here. And the V fin with a couple of safety nubs on here, just in case. so that you don't accidentally snap it too easily when trying to push it off the runner, I guess. Well, I really wish those weren't there. But, well, knowing me, I'm probably going to end up damaging it if I ever try to remove those. Because I have accidentally done that in the past before. Anyways, back to this. The mask is also pretty large as well. Like for the face. Pretty easy to handle, which I do really like. Like compare it to the other kits I mentioned, the F91 and the Victory 2. This face mask would be a lot smaller and much more difficult to handle and manipulate. So I do really appreciate the largest size here, actually. Let's see, there's also one last part I need to grab. And that is this tiny little black piece right here in order to cap off that V-fin. So basically how this works, helmet goes on and it creates this really nice shadow due to this, like this tiny little, the tiny gaps within the head. It's able to create this really nice eyeshadow around the eye. Just like that little bit of depth adds so much to this thing. It's really hard for me to show you guys on my camera since, you know, my camera quality is dog shit. But, oh my gosh, is it good. I highly recommend the entry grades just for that, just to see that in person, honestly. Like, because all of them somehow are able to pull it off without using any eye stickers. I kind of prefer that. There's the head. Really easy assembly on the head. It isn't anything like, you know, the real grade unicorns. Oh my gosh, those heads. The head assembly for the real grade unicorn is fascinating, but also at the same time incredibly annoying, just due to how many small parts you gotta work with. Oh yeah, I just realized there is like instructions in here, along with like some a couple of facts about the new Gundam. But then they also advertise the high-grade Nu and Sazabi. Anyways, we are almost done with this build. All that's left are the weapons, which are incredibly easy to do. We're completely done with this runner, so we can set this aside. All that is left on this runner are these two parts, and both are for the shield. You have this part right here, which is your mounting point, and you have this part right here, which is color separation and the missiles, along with the beam cannon, underneath the shield. Sadly, the missiles aren't in red. You would have to paint that, which I might paint off stream. But, you know, still, I really do like the color separation there. They kind of went above and beyond just to get that color separation. Like, again, they could have just molded it in as, like, one piece. But no, they decided to go above and beyond for this kit, which I, again, really appreciate. Now for the shield, I do need to apply the Amuro decal, this little unicorn decal. But after that, we should be done. I will be applying this, well, off camera, because I will need about as much precision as I can get. Oh shit, I screwed it up. If you're ever peeling decals off like this, be very careful. Because, again, these things are very easy to rip. Make sure that there's no air bubbles, no folding on the decal when applying. And there you go. Got yourself a little Amuro emblem on the shield. So this shield attaches pretty simply. There is a couple divots over here in the side of the left arm that are very hard to see on camera. You can also attach it to the right arm as well, but this just kind of attaches on like so. You will have to rotate the arm, so it does limit some of the poses you can do. Usually when it comes to the shield, there is also a secondary attachment point, like at the bottom around here, that you can just move the shield to, in order to keep the arm in its other position, like in its bent position like so you can bend it upwards, with the shield still being at the side, rather than a shield being at the bottom like so. But this also works, well, for being such a simple kit. And finally, you have the rifle, which you can actually panel line pretty well, because there's a ton of details on here that are like all cut out and etched in. Like, if you decide to panel line this, then a ton of these things will pop. You can kind of see it if I bend like so for the light to glint off. There's so many details in here that I don't think even need to be molded, but they are. Which is very nice. I do really like that. As I said before so many times in this stream. Okay, this might be a bit tricky to just get in initially, but there we go. Little 3-part sandwich. You got 2 parts for the white bit and 1 piece for the navy blue on top. For the beam rifle. And this is very easy to equip. You just kind of slide in the hand like so. No fuss about it. And as I said with the shield, you can just kind of... Let's see if I can get this attachment point off. It is on there a bit tight, now that I'm looking at it. But, come on. This should be usable, as I said before, on the right arm as well. So if you really wanted to, I believe you can just, actually no it isn't. I lied. Mainly because, well, I do see the divots in here on the right arm. This is a bit too narrow to fit. So sadly, well, I kind of lied about that. You cannot fit this on the right arm. But I'm pretty sure the FF variant uses a similar connector in order to fit the cannon onto the arm. Like the right arm, in order to fire. Well, for the suit to properly hold it. But this is what you would get from the entry grade Nu Gundam. It is pretty good overall. I do really like the subtle attention to detail here and there with like there's not too many marks here and there, but there certainly is a couple things you can panel line to bring out even more detail. So for example, these vents right here, if you had some brownish red, you can probably get into there. Everywhere else, I would use a black or gray panel liner. Like, you still have the 3 vents on the mask. There is a very nice color separation in the shield. There's a bit of gray there already. You don't need to panel line any of that. In fact, there's not much to panel line on the shield anyways, since anywhere you would panel line, it is actually deep enough to create shadows in order to, like natural shadows in order to catch your eye. The only thing that I would recommend panel lining is actually just the rifle. Because while there is enough details on here to make it stand out, you can make it pop even more if you decide to panel line it. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this stream. This is the entry grade Nu Gundam, which I personally really enjoyed building. Like, this is definitely one of the this is definitely a different build than usual high grade that I'm usually used to building. But uh it was still a very fun build at the end of the day. If you ever find it at like a good price, I highly recommend getting your hands on it. This is overall a really fun build, even if you aren't new to the hobby or if you have any other new Gundams. Like this thing is pretty cheap. I would highly recommend trying out it. I highly recommend trying it out at least once. Like the entry grade line is, if you've never built it, I highly recommend trying it. It is very fun just to be able to snap everything out by hand. And as I said before, this because this also requires no tools, this is great for, as the name implies, someone who's new to the hobby. Since there isn't much of an investment that you need to make, you just get the kit and there you go. Pretty sturdy for what it is as well. So yeah, as I said before, I think this is where I'm gonna wrap it up. On Friday, I do plan on trying to S rank all the missions in Armored Core 6. Now I have S ranked a good chunk of it, like I want to say half of it to 2/3 of it, but I'll be S ranking the rest of it. So anyways, I'll see you guys then. Bye.